Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Joseph is in jail because he refused the advances of the wife of Potiphar, and she accuses him of wanting to violate her. And he's put in jail. Well, she is the one whom the people believe. But he interprets there the dreams of Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker. And eventually Pharaoh himself dreams. But his astrologers cannot interpret his dreams, and he feels that his dreams are very important. It's then when the cupbearer, who survives because the baker dies, the cupbearer says to Pharaoh, while I was in jail, I met a young man that interpreted my dream the way it really was, and I think he's the one that can solve your problem. Pharaoh gets Joseph out of jail. He is bathed and presented before Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him the story. What is the story? The story is that he dreamt about 7 cows, fat, well-fed, that come out of the river Nile. And then afterwards come 7 very thin cows out of the river Nile and stand next to the fat cows. Then the thin cows eat the fat cows and remain thin themselves. And then he has another dream that is similar. His astrologers cannot interpret it. Joseph says, you know, the 7 fat cows represent 7 years of abundance. The 7 lean cows represent 7 years of nothing to eat. So therefore, he says, my counsel to you is, make sure that during the years of abundance, you save for the years of when there won't be much to eat. Pharaoh is impressed. Okay, I put you in command. You are going to make sure that this is put into practice. Why couldn't the astrologers somehow come to a similar conclusion or something? They were baffled. You know why they were baffled? They realized that 7 fat cows mean seven good things, and the 7 lean cows, 7 not so good things, but they were together. And then the lean ones ate the fat ones, and they were still lean. They couldn't interpret that. You know what it is? 7 good years sometimes are together with 7 bad years also. For some it's good, and for some it's bad. They aren't always mutually exclusive. It depends upon one's vision. There's a guy by the name of Charlie Munger. I think I mentioned him already. He is the partner of Warren Buffett. He says, you know what is the problem in this world? People are full of greed. You want more. It's not that they don't have enough. They don't like what you have. You know, they always look to somebody else. He has more than I do. He says, I lived through the Great Depression in the United States. I know what poverty is. Today, the people who are practically the poorest are not as poor as what happened during the Depression years. So it's because the other one has more. In other words, abundance and lack of things are also a question of perception. Sometimes they're together. Not only that, even people with a lot of abundance eventually think that it's only the lean cows ate the fat cows and remained lean. Even with all the abundance, you still feel that you don't have enough. So what I'm trying to say is that abundance and lack of things are not only physical realities. They also have to do with your perception, how you look at the world. I know of a member of the family who's going to move, has moved, and he has left an apartment in another country. He hasn't been there for several years. Now he's about to sell the apartment, but he has a lot of clothing, a lot of things there. What is he going to do with all those things? How do you sell them? How do you take them out? Then somebody else sold them. Have you used any of the clothing that you have there this past year? He says, of course not. I live here. Apparently you can do without that clothing. Forget about it. Give it away. Give it to the poor. It's a question of perception, abundance. What am I going to do? It's mine, but you're not using it. There is a former president of Uruguay. His name is Jose Mujica. He drives an old Volkswagen. And when he was president, he did the same. And he lives under very poor conditions. And he says, you know what? When you have material things, you become the slave of those things. You need really very little, if you think about it, in order to live. So maybe the abundance and the lack and scarcity have to do more with your own perception than it is really with the existence of things. So try to prioritize what is important in this world. Human relations are important. Things aren't that important. You need the essentials, otherwise you can't live. But above that, it's really useless. And eventually you become a slave to those things trying to preserve them.